What is up, YouTube? We're back with the APHELION'S Rest Legend Lost Sector guide. As you can see, to get here, you're going to want to go to your Destinations tab and look at the upper right part of the Destinations tab. As you can see, it's located right here, and it's more towards the middle. You can see Dreaming City, then spawn right here in APHELION Mist, which is the only spawn, and then we'll just spawn in and go straight to our right over here. And it's not too hard to get over here. But if you're a new player, I can definitely understand, because I remember when I first started playing after Forsaken, this was definitely not that easy for me to find. So obviously I do have a waypoint that I could put on, but I've just done this so many times, I pretty much know it like the back of my hand. So once you enter the strand, you're going to see that little temple slash, I don't really know, structure is what I'm going to call it, off in the distance. Pretty much use that as your guide. Go underneath this bridge, and then the lost sector will be located right here on the right. Right here you can see the symbol, and you'll see the flag. If you don't see this flag, or if you don't see the icon on your map, that means you have to complete it normally. So what you have to do is run through here, and then once you reach a certain point, you'll see that it says lost sector discovered, APHELION'S Rest, and then you can just clear the lost sector out like normally. Make sure you kill everything, kill the boss, and then loot the chest at the end, and you'll unlock legend and master lost sectors for APHELION'S Rest. As you can see, make my way in, and you can see all the enemies spawned in. So I'm gonna run back outside, and then we're gonna go over the modifiers, and then get into the build, and then the gameplay. So let's just work our way back up here. Now, for modifiers, what we have going on is shielded foes. You'll face combatants with void shields, lock loadout, extra shields, equipment locked, limited revives, overload, and unstoppable champions. Solar threat, which is a 25% increase to incoming solar damage. Then we have epitaph, which is taking combatants generate blight geysers when defeated. And we have overcharged weapons. Weapon overcharges from the seasonal artifact are active in this activity. Kinetic weapons do increased damage when your subclass element matches an active surge. Arc surge and strand surge, which is a 25% bonus to outgoing arc and strand surges, or strand damage I should say, and arc damage. And then we have overcharged shotgun, which is a 25% bonus to shotgun damage. Now, recommended power is 1830, but 1815 and above you should be fine. Enhancement core is uncommon, and if completed solo, exotic head armor is rare. So if you're a warlock, this might be a lost sector that you want to grind today. It's not the hardest one to do, to be honest. I could see if maybe with a strand build you can get this done pretty fast, maybe even an arc build. But I do recommend trying to take some time today to do this one, because I think out of all the rest of the lost sectors we have available, this is probably going to be one of the easier ones. But with that being said, we're going to switch over to the loadout now, and then we're going to get into the gameplay. So here's the build that I have put together for this, and it's not anything too crazy. For a subclass, Silk Strike, Strand Super, and then we got Marksman Dodge with Triple Jump, Threaded Spike, and then Threadling Grenades. Now, whatever you choose for this ability, it's completely up to you. I really recommend Threadling Grenades because they're very useful in the Lost Sector. It's not that hard, to be honest, but if you have trouble with killing groups of ads and stuff like that, these nades make it so much easier, especially because there's going to be one part in the Lost Sector where you're dealing with a lot of ads that are constantly respawning. So these will help you deal with that. It's, to be honest, S tier grenades in my opinion. I always recommend having these on. But for aspects, Widow's Silk, and then Threaded Spectre. If you don't have Threaded Spectre, what you have to do is complete Lightfall. Then I think you have to complete some quest that was available. If you need a guide for that and stuff like that, you can just Google it or go to YouTube and just look up Threaded Spectre. I might have enough footage to make a video on that, but I'm not sure because I think I just took screenshots when I did it. I'll see if I can upload that later, but don't quote me on that. Not 100% sure if I can make a video on it, but again, Google, YouTube, pretty sure there's other thousands of YouTubers who did it, so look that up if you need help. But this is very useful because when you use your ability, pretty much when you dodge as a hunter, you're gonna drop this decoy on the ground, and what's gonna happen is enemies will turn their attention to the decoy. That buys you some time to heal, get to a safe spot, And then once the enemies destroy the decoy, they're going to release threadlings, which is basically like having a free grenade go off, and those threadlings are going to target enemies and do damage as well. So as you can see, not really a downside to using it. For fragments, thread of generation, thread of evolution, thread of binding, and thread of continuity is what we got on. Now for this weapon here in the first slot, round robin is the strand hand cannon that I'm using. And if you can get one of these, I highly recommend getting it with hatchling. So as you can see, hatchling precision final blows are rapidly defeating targets with non-precision weapon spawns threadlings at the target's location. Now this is very useful because, again, you're getting more threadlings. These threadlings will spawn at the target's location, and then they'll go get more kills. They'll get you free kills. You don't even have to aim at other enemies. They're going to do it for you. So again, really useful. As well as the origin trait, landing multiple hits turns your next shot into a homing micro rocket. Pretty useful. So that's what I'm running here. To be honest, I didn't really use it too much throughout the Lost Sector, but it's just nice for having it for Unstoppable Champion. That way you have some way to stun the champions, and while also taking advantage of strand buff and stuff like that. Now, if you don't have this hand cannon, because I understand maybe it's locked behind seasonal content or something, I'm not 100% sure. I think it's this. I know it's from Neo Muna. I just don't know if you don't own Lightfall, if you can still get this to drop. Because I know there's been times in the past where Bungie has made it like impossible for people to get certain guns and stuff like that. So if you're in that case, which I don't fault you at all for not wanting to buy DLC and stuff like that, make sure you can just put on a kinetic weapon. Any kinetic hand cannon will work. If you don't want to use Le Monarch, Malfeasance is also an exotic that you can use in place of this, because intrinsically it has Unstoppable Champion rounds, so you could stun Unstoppable Champions with it, regardless if Unstoppable Hand Cannon is an artifact mod or not. But the reason you can use kinetic weapons is because since we're using Strand subclass, kinetic weapons will do increased damage since we're matching it with the surge from the activity. So if, let's say I wanted to use the spare rations, I can use it and it's going to have increased damage because of my Strand subclass. So hopefully that was easy to understand. If not, let me know down in the comments and I will have no problem clarifying that. But for our secondary, Le Monarch. Now I really recommend having Le Monarch because it makes it so much easier dealing with overload champions. At the end, I was having a bit of trouble, I'm not going to lie, because the boss was doing damage to me. I was trying to stun the overload champion and get rid of the overload, but then it was running around the room, hiding it behind walls and stuff, so that's the only downside. But this, with the poison damage, as well as having intrinsic overload rounds to stun overload champions, makes it so much easier. It's like guaranteed after every arrow hit, you'll stun the overload. So it's not like using an auto rifle or a scout rifle where you have to do like 3 shots and the 4th shot activates the overload round. It's very easy to use. If you don't have a Le Monarch, I highly recommend getting one and then just putting it in your vault if you don't have one by now. But in my heavy slot, Circular Logic. Any heavy you can use, to be honest. I highly recommend using an arc or a strand weapon. That way you're taking advantage of those buffs. But in my opinion, Circular Logic is a great one. It's a machine gun, so that way you hold a lot of heavy ammo. And with Hatchling, again, it's going to create threadlings, so that's going to cause more damage. And it also has the micro rocket that can spawn after landing multiple hits. So you kind of have some versatility with that. But again, if you don't have this, something like the Swarm is definitely usable. Whatever you want, to be honest. So just keep that in mind. Not anything. I'm not saying you have to use this full loadout. You can change it up, do whatever you want. But for armor, Ashes to Assets, gain bonus super energy on grenade kills. And again, since we're using our nades, we're using our threadling grenades, might as well get some super energy for it. Strand Siphon and Void Siphon, these are going to allow us to create Orbs of Power with Strand weapon final blows and Void weapon final blows. As you can see, we have 2 Strand weapons, our first weapon here and our heavy slot right here, and then our second weapon is a Void weapon. Now if you don't run a Strand hand cannon, you might put Kinetic Siphon, that way you generate orbs. Whatever you do, that's completely up to you. Then for our arms, Firepower, which is your grenade final blows create orbs of power, so again we're generating a lot of orbs. Grenade Kickstart, when your grenade energy is fully expended, you gain grenade energy, so again we're using our nades and we're gonna get more grenade energy just for using it, so it's pretty much free grenade energy. Then void loaders, so whenever we use Le Monarch, we can reload it faster since it's a bow. You have to put that one arrow in every time, so it just helps with the reload speed. In terms of the chest piece, I just have 2 solar damage resistant mods on, and that's because the boss uses a lot of solar damage. So adjust this how you see fit. If you don't feel like you really care about the solar damage and you want to do like void or arc damage, that's up to you. But I just ran it with solar damage resistance and I didn't really have a problem. Then for my exotic here, Star Eater Scales, and this is just going to allow me to overcharge my super when I pick up Orbs of Power. And remember, we have all these ways to generate orbs. Not only are we going to use that to overcharge our super, but we're also going to use that for Better Already, which is your health begins to regenerate immediately after picking up an Orb of Power. So again, bonuses for picking up orbs, but we're also getting Shrine Weapon Surges and Kinetic Weapon Surges, and that's actually not supposed to be there. I just realized that. Instead of Kinetic Weapon Surge, make that a Void Weapon Surge if that's what you're doing. Mainly because, again, we're using a Void weapon. I think I didn't notice that while playing the Lost Sector, but it definitely would have helped, I think, with overloads and stuff. So keep that in mind. Definitely put on Void and Strand Weapon Surge if this is what you're doing. But what these surges allow us to do is get small bonus damage while you have Armor Charge active. And how you get Armor Charge is by picking up orbs. So pretty useful. This is going to give you extra damage, which is always useful. Then in terms of the cloak, Time Dilation, which is your decaying armor charge, has longer duration. We have 2 of these, that way it lasts longer and we can use it to our advantage. Then we have Bomber, which reduces grenade cooldown when using your class ability. So whenever we throw our decoy down, whenever we're in a pinch and we need to just dodge or reload our weapon, we're going to end up getting grenade ability, which again is going to let us get more grenades, throw grenades, we get more energy. You can see the loop that we're doing here when it comes to generating orbs with our nades, getting nades, picking up orbs, you know, cooling downs and everything. Just a lot going on without having to do a whole lot, which is great about this. So then when it comes to the artifact mods we have in play, authorized mods Void and Countercharge. That's really all I got going on. Now, just to make this known, if you're going to run this, make sure you get Unstoppable Hand Cannon, make sure you get Authorized Mods Void, and make sure you get Countercharge. That's pretty much all I got put together here. Again, feel free to make adjustments how you see fit, but with that being said, that's going to do it for the build. Now we're going to cut straight to the gameplay. So you can see, spawned in, and here you're going to see this group of ads, Thrall, and then once you get rid of this first set, you are going to get another set of ads here, and again, they're just red health bar enemies, nothing too crazy. Let me see if I just get some kills with my melee. Then we'll just get rid of these enemies. Now here you're going to see the Unstoppable Champion in the distance over here. Let me see if I can get a good amount of kills with this. There we go. And I'm going to switch over to my hand cannon to stun. Let me actually try to get rid of that guy first. Now I'm going to switch over to my Strand Heavy Machine Gun. You can see do some damage here. Okay, him pulling that shield out was not optimal. All good though. I'll just throw some nades. If I get a finisher, there we go. Now let's just back up and deal with these ads. You can see why threadlings are so useful here, especially with all these thrall and stuff. They can get you some multi-kills, they can get you some good damage. I think having hatchling and stuff like that is just more of a benefit more than anything. And we're going to pick this up because if you've played this before, you know that these enemies are going to try to duplicate and replicate, you know, and spawn more enemies. So I am going to try to get rid of some here. It doesn't look like they're doing it right now, which is pretty weird. I thought they'd do it right off the bat. But there you can see it happening right there in front of us. I'm going to try to deal with this Unstoppable Champion while also, you know what, let me run over here because I don't want to be getting shot at by all these ads at the same time. So have the Unstoppable Champion follow me over here. Remember, since we're using that aspect that allows you to have the decoy put down every time we throw that decoy down, it's going to take the enemy's attention. So 24/7, we're not constantly having enemies shoot at us. So that's a good little thing to have as well. I'm going to throw some nades. That way the threat means we get some kills. And you know when you're killing the duplicated enemies because you're getting +0 for everything. I'm not a big fan of that whole just replicating enemy stuff, but it is what it is. You can see for the overload, we're just going to use Le Monarch. And let's just try to just continuously stun it. That way we're getting armor charges as well as just stunning it so it doesn't shoot the stasis at us and everything like that. It's pretty annoying. I think unstoppable champions and overloads are both the most annoying champions in the game. So having to deal with them is, you know, in this lost sector, at least in my case, pretty annoying. But again, not the hardest lost sector to be honest. You can see we're just going to keep stunning this champion. Now let's work our way up here. And to be honest, we're just going to have more ads and more of the whole replicating enemy thing. You can see from this angle here, you can get rid of some of these major enemies, or I think they're minors actually, minor enemies, because they're dying pretty quickly. Majors, I think, have a beefier health bar. Minor enemies, they're obviously easier to get rid of compared to majors and stuff. But you can see these enemies, they're doing that little teleporting thing and probably duplicating themselves. You can see I love Le Monarch when using it against these void shields, because not only does it pop the void shield, which does a little extra damage, but it also has that little poison effect that will you know, do damage over time, which is really good. Now here's where I'm going to put a decoy down and just spam some nades. You can see the boss spawned, and at this point I'm going to back up because that boss is doing some solar damage, and I absolutely want no part of that. You can also see that our Feast of Light is at ×3, and I really want to get it to ×4 before I use my super on the boss. That way it's kind of easier to get rid of him. For those of you who don't know, I explained it a little bit in the loadout when I said that I was using Star Eater scales to overcharge my super. And just to go in a little more depth about that is once you overcharge your super, you obviously do more damage, and that's obviously useful because you want to, you know, get rid of the boss as fast as possible. This overload champion is just giving me some problems just because they want to keep moving and running around. I'm going to take my heavy out, try to do some damage while also going back to stunning it. Take the heavy back out. Probably should have done this to begin with, so when you first stun it, just try to use your heavy if you're using the same class that I am. As you can see, we got ×3. I hope there's an orb that I didn't pick up yet. I know I generated one here, but I think it despawned. So it looks like I'm stuck with ×3, but hopefully this could get the job done. Let's just do this. Just keep spamming him with this attack. Yeah, pretty easy as you can see. Now we just got some ads up here. Just use this, kind of suspend them, use the attacks. Pretty easy as you can see. This is my first run with the build. Didn't have to do too much. Pretty much a 5-minute, 50-second run. Not bad at all. I'll take that every day of the week compared to some other lost sectors like Extraction from yesterday. That one can absolutely go kick rocks, but that's going to do it. Make sure if you're a warlock and you need that exotic, today is definitely a day that you can get it done pretty easily. So I highly recommend going after that. But if you are farming, good luck. Hope you get whatever you need. But with all of that being said, make sure to like the video if you found it helpful. Comment, let me know down in the comments if you're running some other builds, how easy it is, and other things that you can use. Make sure to ring the bell so you don't miss another video, and most importantly, make sure to hit that subscribe button. But with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.